In general, I don't think schools differentiate too much between the ACT and SAT. I took both. I found the ACT much easier. It could just be a, idiosyncratic. It could just be me, but in general, I would say probably take both. You might find one much easier than the other. At Deerfield High School, I took 11 AP tests. I did well in all of them. I was a valedictorian. In particular, I think something in common with some of the students who have spoken in the past is that my high school didn't offer all the courses, but I wanted to take some of them. So we found a way. I enrolled in an online AP chemistry course for credit with my school, and I did a independent study. I asked if I could just meet with a teacher once a week. I would learn linear algebra on my own, and the school approved it. So sometimes it's just finding these opportunities and asking. In general, I think, as I alluded to at the beginning, I knew good grades wouldn't necessarily distinguish myself. So the biggest value of the application essays for me was sort of showing self-awareness. I think that if you don't know why you're doing an activity, then the sort of missions committees, how could they know? So I wanted to sort of reflect deeply on what I did, what I liked about them, and in particular, what do I value about myself? I think it's important to know that before you apply because you're asking schools to see something that they value about you. Despite having taken many STEM courses, I loved my English classes in high school, and I decided I wanted to apply as an English major. This was a bit risky. I didn't have, some English majors enter writing contests, they have big writing samples. I didn't really have any of this. Uh, but my essay, I think, really helped a lot with this. It wasn't just a re-articulation, I think, of the achievements. There's a lot of sections in schools' application forms where you can just list out all the clubs you're in, all the things you've done, all the awards you've won. Mine was not that long, promise. But I knew I wanted to say something else besides, And by the way, did I mention that I did this charity basketball? No. I wrote instead a short story style essay. I made a lot of allusions and used stylistic references to my other favorite short stories. And the short story content was actually just about buying flowers and asking someone on a date. By sort of writing this, I thought I could show rather than tell about what I valued about myself, right? How I wanted to use writing to think about the world more deeply. The other part of the application was probably the letters of recommendation and the interviews. As I mentioned, I was close with a lot of teachers, and I think this helped. Um, Part of what helped was asking them for general advice. Uh, First, people in general like to talk about themselves and reflect on their lives. But I was just interested. I liked them. I found the teachers I really liked and sort of asked them, how did you figure out what you wanted to do in life? Did you have any advice? Not all teachers obviously will have the time, but just asking any sort of question outside of class, I think is something that is often really appreciated. One thing that I found is that I've always been a little bit afraid to bother people, and as in high school, in college, and in graduate school, it's always, I think, better to reach out and try. People are much more receptive than you fear. I always thought I would annoy them or take up too much of their time, but I think they really enjoyed it, and it led to a lot of really good relationships. And then on the interview part, I had a lot. I think I didn't apply to too many schools after getting into Yale early, but the Yale interview was by far the best. Um, I think what was really important for it was the role of reflection. I interviewed with someone who was, I think, a history professor at U Chicago, and he sat down, and his first question right away was, "What role does chance have in your life and in bringing you to this moment in this place?" And it was, I think, right along the lines of what I had been thinking about. And so we talked for 2.5 hours at a museum, and I'm fairly confident that was some small or large part of why I got in early.